Welcome to the deep dive, where we take a stack of information, sift through the noise, and really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge for you.
Hmm.
Today, we're cutting straight into the latest wave of Azure service updates. We're looking specifically at those hitting the wires from June 16th to June 20th, 2025.
That's right. And for you, navigating this fast-paced world of cloud tech, staying on top of these weekly updates, well, it isn't just curiosity, is it? It's
Mhm.
pretty crucial for your operations, your security, architecture, all of it.
Absolutely.
So we'll be zeroing in on what's now generally available, what's landed in public preview,
Right.
and also any critical retirements you really need to be aware of.
Yeah, those retirements can sneak up on you. Our mission for this deep dive is basically to highlight what truly matters, maybe connect the dots on how these sometimes seemingly disparate updates contribute to that bigger picture. Operational resilience, cost optimization, better security in Azure.
And it's timely, too.
Right. Since we generated the summary just today, June 22nd, 2025, it's pretty much fresh off the press. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's dive into the core infrastructure evolution first.
That was good.
Kicking things off with Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS. There's been, well, quite a bit of movement this week. What's really standing out to you here, particularly thinking about folks managing those containerized workloads? What are the sort of broader implications?
Yeah, AKS. What's fascinating here, I think, is how these updates, when you look at them together, they really signal a deeper maturation of the whole AKS ecosystem. It feels like it's about giving users more robust, more flexible, and importantly, stable options. Options that reflect, serious enterprise-grade needs.
Okay, stable and enterprise grade. So leading that charge, we're seeing Ubuntu 24.04 for AKS enter public preview. Now, this isn't just about getting the latest Linux, right?
Not at all. Ubuntu 24.04, it brings a new long-term support kernel, enhanced security features. So for AKS users, this means potentially a more stable, more secure, maybe even more performant base for your containerized apps.
Right. It kind of sets the stage for future performance gains, maybe better support life, especially if you're keen on using those newer Linux capabilities, like, I don't know, improved memory management if you've got really dense node pools.
Exactly. And it also comes with Container 2.0 enabled by default.
Ah, okay. And that default inclusion of Container 2.0, that's
Yeah,
important, isn't it?
it is. For those maybe less familiar, Container 2.0 is, well, it's the industry standard container runtime now.
Yeah.
Having it there by default just shows Azure's commitment to providing the latest, most efficient way to run containers. You get potentially better resource use, a better security posture right out of the box.
Makes sense.
And building on that stability theme, Azure Linux for AKS LTS is now generally available. This starts with Kubernetes version 1.28 and above.
Okay, Azure Linux LTS GA. That seems like a crucial update. So you compare a stable enterprise-grade Node OS with those AKS LTS benefits.
Precisely. You get a consistent, secure, well-supported foundation. It's about predictability.
That level of consistency, that's exactly what larger enterprises are looking for, isn't it? To,
Yeah.
standardize their deployments.
Absolutely. They want that predictable base.
And speaking of LTS, Kubernetes versions 1.31 and 1.32 are also now generally available as long-term support versions in AKS.
Hmm.
What's particularly notable here, I think, is that every Kubernetes version supported by the community is now LTS compatible. That feels significant.
It really is. It offers genuine long-term stability for deployments, and it significantly simplifies your upgrade planning. You get much more predictable maintenance cycles,
Less upgrade panic, maybe.
hopefully. Now, shifting gears a bit, there's an operational change that might impact some of you. It's the retirement of the skip kaput driver install nodepool tag. The effective date is August 14th, 2025.
Okay, skip Japu driver install is going away. Why is that more than just a minor tweak?
Well, it kind of highlights Azure's push towards more standardized, more secure, perhaps more compliant GPU environments. Basically, after August 14th, automatic driver installation becomes mandatory.
Right, so Azure manages the driver lifecycle.
Yeah, which is simpler for them and maybe for many users. But the key insight here is that those bespoke, really customized GPU driver configurations, they're being phased out.
Ah, so if you've been heavily customizing your GPU driver installs.
Exactly.
Mm.
If that's you, this change means you'll need to carefully adjust your provisioning workflows. You'll probably want to do some pre-deployment testing, especially for applications that might be sensitive to specific driver versions. Definitely a heads up needed there.
Good warning. Sounds like a move towards a more managed approach for GPUs, which, has its pros and cons.
For sure.
And one more on the container front. For those using Red Hat OpenShift, Azure Red Hat OpenShift version 4.17 is now generally available as an installation option.
Yep. This release brings enhanced capabilities, better performance for enterprise workloads running on Azure. So just more robust options if you're committed to that OpenShift platform.
Okay, so that covers the container landscape pretty well, but beneath those containers, or for more traditional workloads, that foundational compute layer VMs, serverless functions, that's also seeing some significant shifts. What's caught your eye there?
Yeah, this section, it really highlights some critical stuff around lifecycle management and observability for those core compute resources. There are some key retirements you definitely need to know about, and also some pretty big improvements in how you can monitor your applications.
Okay, let's start with the retirements then.
All right. A notable one is the DCS V2 series Azure Virtual Machines. These are set to be retired on June 30, 2026.
DCS V2, those are the confidential computing ones, right? Intel SGX.
That's them. So if you're leveraging these specific confidential computing VMs, you absolutely need to plan to migrate your workloads before that June 2026 date.
Okay, but is confidential computing itself going away?
No, that's the key point. While this specific series, DCS2, is retiring, the underlying enclave-based Intel SGX technology that will continue to be supported in other VM series. So the capability isn't disappearing, it's just shifting, presumably to newer, maybe better hardware.
Got it. So migrate off DCS V2, but confidential computing lives on in other forms.
Correct. And then on the observability front, this is quite interesting. Azure Functions has announced significant improvements to OpenTelemetry support. It's now in public preview.
OpenTelemetry, that's becoming a big deal, isn't it? The open source standard for telemetry.
It really is. Traces, metrics, logs, all standardized. The enhanced support in Azure Functions means you're no longer locked into just Azure's native monitoring tools like App Insights.
Some more flexibility.
Much more flexibility. And portability, too. You gain the ability to observe and troubleshoot your serverless workloads, potentially across different cloud or hybrid environments using a common standard. This is a pretty significant step forward for understanding, the sometimes opaque behavior of serverless functions.
Yeah, observability in serverless can be tricky. Okay, let's pivot. Networking and security. What new capabilities are we seeing that help you secure and optimize network traffic, especially thinking about folks managing large web presences?
Right. If we kind of connect this to the bigger picture, these updates seem focused on streamlining your security posture and really simplifying certificate management, particularly for those larger scale web applications.
Okay, simplifying cert management. Sounds good.
First up, Azure Front Door now supports managed certificates for wildcard domains. This is generally available for both standard and premium profiles.
Managed certs for wildcards on Front Door. Okay, that sounds like a convenience, but maybe it's more than that.
Oh, I think it's a huge win, actually. Think of the IT teams who used to spend hours managing renewals for wildcard certs, maybe across dozens of subdomains.
Right, you usually had to bring your own cert for wildcards.
Exactly. This new capability means you don't need to manage those external certs yourself anymore. That's a massive reduction in operational overhead. And it's a huge win for security, too, because it drastically cuts the chance of an expired certificate taking down a customer-facing application. We've all seen that happen, right?
Painfully, yes. Okay, so that's a big operational plus. What else on the security front?
From a security operations perspective, the Azure Web Application Firewall, or way of integration in Microsoft Security Copilot, has reached general availability.
Okay, WAF Insights feeding into Security Copilot.
Yeah, and this supports both Azure Front Door WAF and Azure Application Gateway WAF. So those WAF Insights come directly into Copilot.
And the benefit there is?
Well, it's not just about seeing the data in one place. It significantly enhances security operations by giving you a more unified, more actionable view of your web app security posture. It should allow security teams to respond faster, more effectively to threats identified by the WAF.
Better context, faster response. Makes sense. Okay, let's talk data. Always lots happening there. What's new in Azure's database and storage offerings? Looking through the list, it seems like there's a strong push for both performance and definitely cost optimization here.
Exactly. That's a good summary. It's fascinating here is that dual focus. You've got operational efficiency and flexibility improvements for DBAs alongside some pretty significant storage enhancements catering to high-performance needs and also robust backup strategies.
Okay, so for Azure SQL Managed Instance, we're seeing Generally available updates for faster management operations. What does faster mean here?
It means you can now create and update instances in under 30 minutes.
Under 30 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, which significantly enhances elasticity. Think about provisioning different configurations quickly or dynamic environments, maybe infrastructure as code pipelines where rapid deployments are really critical.
Yeah,
That's a big speed up.
definitely. And there were some other Azure SQL updates mid-June, too.
Yes, several that really underline resilience and flexibility. First, the option to increase the resiliency of your general purpose Azure SQL Managed Instance using zone redundancy. That's now generally available.
Zone redundancy for general purpose SQL mi.ga now. Why is that particularly interesting?
Well, zone redundancy itself isn't new, right? But its GA specifically for the general purpose tier is a subtle but, I think, critical shift. Previously, you often had to jump up to the more expensive business critical tier to get that level of resilience.
Ah, okay. So it makes high availability more accessible.
Exactly. It sort of democratizes HA, making it more cost-effective for a broader range of applications that need protection against, data center level failures. It significantly reduces the blast radius if one zone has an issue.
That's a really good point. What else in SQL?
Also, in public preview now, we have data virtualization for Azure SQL Database.
Data virtualization, meaning?
Meaning you can query things like CSV, Parquet, and Delta Lake files stored directly in Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 right from your SQL database.
Oh, interesting. So query data in Lake without moving it.
Pretty much. It really expands its capabilities for data analysis without needing complex ETL processes, just to query external data alongside your relational data. Pretty neat.
Yeah, that sounds powerful. Okay, this next one, though, for me, feels like a potential game changer for cost optimization. Customizing RAM per vCore in Azure SQL Managed Instance is now in public preview.
Ah, yes, the customizable memory option. This is significant.
Right, because you can independently configure RAM from the vCores now. Previously, if you needed more memory, what did you have to do?
Often you had to scale up your vCores even if you didn't need the extra compute power, which meant paying for compute and potentially licensing that you didn't really need.
Exactly. So now you can fine-tune the instance to match your actual workload needs, especially for those memory-hungry but maybe not compute-intensive workloads.
Yeah, it could lead to substantial cost savings in those scenarios. It offers a level of granular control that, frankly, DBAs have been asking for a while.
Finally. Okay, good stuff on SQL. What about open source databases?
For those working with PostgreSQL, the migration service in Azure Database for PostgreSQL now supports version 17, and that's generally available.
Okay, so easier migrations for Postgres, including the latest version.
Yep, it simplifies moving your PostgreSQL databases, including v17, to Azure from various supported sources. Just eases that transition if you're looking to modernize your database infrastructure onto Azure PaaS.
Good for the Postgres folks.
Right.
All right, shifting from databases to the underlying storage, what's new there?
We've got Azure Premium SSD V2 Disk and Ultra Disk now, generally available in the Malaysia West region.
Premium SSD, V2, and UltraDisk. Those are the top-tier performance options, right?
Absolutely. Highest performing storage for Azure VMs. We're talking incredibly high throughput, high IOPS, and that consistent low sub-millisecond latency.
So their expansion to new regions like Malaysia West is always good news for global deployments, brings that top performance closer to more users.
Exactly right. More choice, lower latency for customers there.
And staying with storage, but thinking about protection, the increased disk capacity for Azure VM Backup has reached general availability. What are the new limits?
VMs can now be protected with individual disks up to 64 terabytes. And the total backup size per VM goes up to 512 terabytes.
64 terabytes per disk, 512 total per VM. Wow.
Yeah, it's a big jump. This is a really crucial enhancement for business continuity, disaster recovery, and ransomware protection, especially for those larger, more critical workloads that just demand massive storage and need really robust backup solutions. It definitely provides more peace of mind for managing your most vital data.
No kidding. Okay, and finally, let's wrap up with updates improving the overall management and resilience of Azure environments, making sure you're prepared for, well, anything.
Yeah, this section really raises that important question about operational excellence and preparedness, especially for high-performance systems. These updates give you critical tools for being proactive and for recovery when needed.
Okay, so what do we got?
First, Azure Site Recovery, or ASR, now supports virtual machines with UltraDisks. This is in public preview.
ASR for VMs with ultra disks. That sounds important for DR.
It's significant, yeah, because it enables seamless disaster recovery for your absolute highest performing, most demanding VMs, the ones using ultradisks for that extreme low latency. Now you can fail them over across Azure regions or even protect them from on-prem to Azure.
So for those really mission-critical apps relying on ultra-low latency storage, this ensures business continuity even if there's a major outage.
That's the goal. It closes a gap for those high-end workloads.
Good to see. And for monitoring and troubleshooting.
There's continuous performance diagnostics for Linux VMs via Azure Monitor, now in public preview.
Continuous diagnostics for Linux.
Yeah.
What does that add?
Well, it expands Microsoft's kind of integrated solution for monitoring and optimizing cloud resources. It allows for enhanced and, crucially, continuous troubleshooting of Linux VM performance issues.
So not just point-in-time checks.
Right. I remember a client once spent days, literally days, debugging a VM performance issue. Turned out to be a minor config oversight in the end. This kind of continuous diagnostic capability. It could have potentially saved them, and us, a lot of headaches. It moves beyond just on-demand snapshots to providing more proactive insights.
Yeah, proactive is always better than reactive when it comes to performance issues.
Definitely.
Okay, and to wrap up our updates, there's one more big piece of news. Azure's expanding global footprint. A new cloud region in Chile is now generally available.
Yes, significant expansion there.
And this isn't just another data center popping up, is it? It's the first cloud region in Chile to offer Azure availability zones.
That's the key differentiator. Availability zones right from the start, providing scalable, highly available, and resilient Microsoft cloud services directly within the region.
So that really confirms Microsoft's commitment to cloud transformation in Latin America, offering local customers lower latency, data residency options, the whole package.
Absolutely. It's a strong signal to the market there.
Wow. Okay, that really was a lot of ground covered for just 1 week's worth of Azure updates. I mean, from the deeper maturation of AKS, those enhanced OpenTelemetry insights, the granular cost optimization for SQL Managed Instance, all the way to expanded storage capacities and resilience options, and topping it off with a brand new, highly resilient region in Chile. It's clear Azure isn't slowing down one bit.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The sheer volume and honestly the technical depth of these updates, it just highlights that continuous innovation. And it really underscores the importance of staying informed, doesn't it?
It really does.
Each of these enhancements, whether it's a new GA feature or something still in preview, it offers a tangible opportunity for you to optimize, to secure, and to build more resilient cloud deployments.
So wrapping it all up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? As you integrate these updates into your thinking and potentially into your environments, maybe consider this. How might some of these specific advancements, particularly in areas like, say, cost optimization from customizing RAM per vCore in SQL MI, or that improved observability for Azure Functions, how might those redefine your next generation of cloud architecture decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question to chew on.
Definitely something to ponder until our next deep dive.